It's time. It's time once again to take a journey. So turn on the lights, pull your chair up, get a little closer to the computer, and get ready, because the journey's about to begin. You turn your radio on and there it is, a faint station, wafting in and out of the static of the night. A man named Eric, running a show called the Midnight Cafe, calls to you. The conversation seems strange at first, but as you listen, as his voice fades in and out of the static, you realize this is where you were meant to be. This is what you were meant to listen to. We will take a journey that takes us from the normal, well, all the way through to the paranormal and beyond. We'll talk about the knowns and the unknowns and everything in between. And together, perhaps we'll make a little sense out of this crazy world we all live in. Welcome, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Midnight Cafe. This episode starts season 3 here on YouTube and our 21st year of transmitting the truth. I'm excited to be here. I hope you're excited to join me. We're trying something a little different with our YouTube show tonight. I'm going to be filming this or recording this a little earlier than the show, so it's not going to be live, but I'll be there for a live release to answer questions in the comment box. And then in the second half, we will go live and take your calls and discuss tonight's topics. And tonight's topic, well, we'll get to that after the news. The news tonight, well, we cover the first 2 topics on everyone's minds. First up, the virus that plagues humanity continues its long march around the world and back again. All-time highs for new cases here in the United States, and questions that just go on for days. What will happen in a month and a half when schools are set to reopen? What will happen in 120 days when elections are scheduled to be held here in the United States? It remains to be seen, and certainly there is plenty of arguing on Capitol Hill whether or not these things will take place, and if so, how they will take place. The one thing we can be certain of is nothing at this point is certain. We'll keep an eye on that, and of course, it's a very touchy subject with the censors, so we will try to keep it, right down the middle of the road. Next up, one that I don't want to talk about because there is no middle of the road on this subject, and a lot of it has to do with tonight's topic as well, but we're talking about the mostly peaceful protests occurring around the world and how they have slowed somewhat, that these mostly peaceful protests and the damage they have done to the towns they've been in, the defacement of statues, their graffiti, the general mess that these mostly peaceful protests have left, and the lasting impact that they will have. My personal opinion, of course, being that they may not have the impact they were hoping to have in the positive light. I think that a lot of the positives are being overshadowed by mostly peaceful protests being not so peaceful. And the damage being done is leaving a lasting impact on those that it affects. Business owners and homeowners alike not liking what a mostly peaceful protest does to their neighborhood. We'll keep an eye on that one as well, but unfortunately with the YouTube censorship, that one probably won't get covered a whole lot. However, you will want to stay tuned for tonight's actual main topic because we will use that mostly peaceful protesting as part of our explanation into what's going on in this country. Lastly, we talk about space because this show does love to talk about outer space, and we talk about the fact that the SpaceX mission is now halfway through its mission. The astronauts up on the International Space Station doing their stuff, and of course the ship waiting to take them back down, hopefully safely to Earth. I look forward to seeing the completion of the entire mission, and congratulations once again to Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, he is a visionary and a salesman and a true pioneer, the true spirit of Americanism, I would say. And he's not even American. Right on to you, my friend. Take care. So that's it for the news tonight, shortened and sweetened because there's no real stories to debate. We're going to move on to our main topic right after this. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Eric. This is the Midnight Cafe. Hope you're enjoying the new layout here. For folks not used to catching this show on the air, the Midnight Cafe has spent most of its 21 years of existence as a radio show, and we're moving the format slightly back towards a more radio type format. However, we are broadcasting onto YouTube because of the sheer number of people available. Tap into that audience. We're also on 1670 AM and WFPF FM 103.5 if you're lucky enough to be in any area broadcasting, as well as one little station overseas, and I'll let them introduce themselves in a future episode. But we also broadcast on Shoutcast, the voice of the mountains. You can check us out there. And now let's get on with tonight's topic. The main topic for tonight, evil. More specifically, the root of all evil. I'm going to start the show off by reading something I read not too long ago from an anonymous individual on the internet, but I found it to be a poignant example as to what the root of all evil really is. It really made me think, and hopefully it'll do the same for you. So let's get right into it. If someone is beaten by a mob or is laying injured on the road, you should be able to feel that person's pain. That unique human ability to understand another person's feeling is what we call empathy. The root of all evil, then, it can be said, is the absence of empathy. Anything that kills our empathy makes us evil. When we can't feel the pain of another human being, we lose all kindness and good sense. We become monsters. And it can happen to anyone, rich or poor, educated or illiterate, black, brown, white, red. Education is of no help in this case. Empathy is something more, or something less. Very often, when people want to kill our empathy as a bait, they use lofty ideas such as religion, nationalism, patriotism, equality, liberty, etc. These examples are far too many to list, but you get the picture. Nazis used a hate-filled vision of nationalism to make fellow Germans stop seeing Jews as human beings. Once you don't consider someone a human, you can't feel empathy for them. Once that happened, the entire German nation became a silent or active participant in the biggest mass murder in human history. There was that same feeling going on in our world today. Similarly, communism abused the idea of equality to brand people as a class enemy. They used class warfare, if this sounds familiar. And to suppress the class enemy, they made the party supreme, not the individual. Well, once you were branded as a class enemy or as a counter-revolutionary, in their eyes, you were no longer a human. It resulted in mass murders across the globe. So many, in fact, that it would take forever to list them all. But from Stalin's Soviet Union to Mao's China to today's North Korea, this always seems to have the same effect. And what about religion? I think violence in the name of religion has exceeded any other violence since the dawn of civilization. And it works much in the same way. Once we believe that a follower of another religion is less human than us, we can justify any kind of evil action against them in order to win. To this, all I can say is let us be kind to others and ourselves. Someday we will need someone else's kindness. Let us earn it now, my friends. Let us earn it now. So this very interesting letter that I just read to you, this statement, it really hit my heart because it's similar to what I feel. Perhaps not exactly how I feel, but very similar. We use dehumanization techniques to make our enemies easier to kill. It's part of what we do as humans. If I feel for my enemy, well, I can't kill him or her. And I see this every day here in America, and I know this is happening around the world, but tonight I want to focus in on America, and I want to talk about how this is affecting our own country. How now we dehumanize each other over the most simple and pathetically simple things. The left versus the right, socialism versus patriotism, my God is better than your God. All these things have been used to great effect, but we are now facing a harsher and harsher reality because the lines haven't just been drawn, but the ability to negotiate, the ability to debate, the ability to even show that empathy for one another's cause is quickly evaporating in our midst. I'm as guilty as the rest, of course. I certainly feel hatred towards certain ideals or thoughts or things, but I try so hard not to, because I understand somewhere deep inside that hatred, that is evil soaking into my bones, corrupting my soul and leading me to do the things that I shouldn't do or have the thoughts that I shouldn't think. I'm going to use this as an example, and this is kind of a hot button, a hot ticket item right now. People very inflamed over this. I could certainly go a lot farther, but to be honest with you, that would probably lead to me being banned off the channel rather quickly. But I'm going to talk about something as simple as wearing a mask. Right? There is a big stink going on in our country right now over something as simple as that. And if you were just to sit back and not think about the specifics, if you were just to roll in here from 5 years ago and tell somebody, yeah, there's guys and gals ready to beat each other up over the idea of wearing a face mask out in public, people might raise an eyebrow and look at you like you were crazy. But here we are. On the one side, we have the people who feel that wearing a mask is to bend a knee to some unseen power, to be subjugated, something they are not willing to do, at least not without putting up a fight. These people truly believe they hold the moral high ground, and I'm not here to disagree with that. On the other side, we have another group of people who feel it is their moral obligation to confront anyone that does not wear a mask in public. For those of you who are watching this in the future or listening to this in the future, we live in a time where some states have mandated that people wear masks out in public. Some states are choosing to let counties decide on a case-by-case, but that is the world we are living in currently. So as I was saying, on the other side of this argument, we have people who will go out of their way to publicly shame someone who refuses to wear a mask. And they feel morally superior in doing so. And I'm not here to argue that point either. I'm just here to say that I have witnessed on what we consider to be news these days, I have witnessed video of people arguing and sometimes physically fighting with each other over the right or the privilege to wear or not wear a mask. And to me, I see that as going back to this hate-filled vision. We have lost empathy. We have lost the ability to look at the other side of the argument. We have lost the ability to negotiate, to understand that someone else might feel differently than us, and for that to still be okay. That loss of empathy, that loss of understanding is leading us down a dark path, my friends. A very dark path. One that we're all going to take, whether we want to or not. But I ask you here tonight, what is your opinion on this? Are you easily brought to rage by the mere sight of something that you disagree with? Or are you one of the very few, and ever fewer by the day, people who can say, hey, I don't agree with that at all, but I don't care. I'm just going to let it slide, man, because I know this guy, I know this gal, they're good people. They're just different. We say we're all about diversity, we say we're all about social harmony, but it is my opinion, it is my observation that anything couldn't be farther from the truth. We don't support diversity in this country. We hate what we don't understand. We don't support any of these things anymore. But we claim the wars, the fighting, the people out in the streets screaming, the rioting, the looting, the fires, the protests, the doxing, causing someone to lose their job because you disagree with what they have to say. That's not acceptance. That's not empathy. That's the opposite. And it makes me want to puke. I'm Eric, the owner of the Midnight Cafe. This is a different take. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm going to go to break. We're going to switch over and go live, so look for the live stream here. And I want you to call in. We're going to open up Skype. I want you to call in. I want to hear from people tonight. I know we're talking in the chat room, but I want to hear from you. So right after the song here, that's exactly what we're going to do. Right here on the Midnight Cafe. Well, there we are. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm now live. That was pre-recorded, but I'm here tonight because I want to talk. I want to have this talk. I mean, I really want to have this talk. I want to know what you feel. I want to know how you feel. I want to know how we change this, because all of us have very strong opinions on the simplest and most complex things that are going on in our society. That is not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is how do we come back to the table as a country? How do we come to the point where we learn once again be able to accept people who disagree with us, people whose ideas are foreign to us? How do we come to accept that and realize that in order to be free in a free country, we must be what we want to be, and we must allow others to be what they want to be within the confines of our national laws? Who's got the you-know-whats to give me a call tonight and have this conversation? The lines are open here at the Midnight Cafe. It is live at the Midnight Cafe, all one word. And I would love to hear from you. If not, I will go... Oh, well, look at that. I'm happy to see somebody calling in. Hello, my friend. Who we got on the phone? Or do I have somebody on the phone? Are you there? Looks like we don't have a great connection. I'm going to go ahead and hang up, and you can try again, my friend. Take care. Let's see. Mountain Man, if you want to give me a shout back, we'll try that again. I'm sorry that it didn't come through the first time. Calcius is commenting that the momentum is too strong. We are in a rough situation. I do not disagree, but I have to maintain that there is some hope that somehow, perhaps not with the generations that exist right now, but with the generations in the future, that we're able to turn this around, that people realize that the true meaning of tolerance... let's try this again. Are you there? Mountain Man, are you there? I kind of hear you, Mountain Man. Sounds like that's not going to work out. Mountain Man, I'm sorry it didn't work out. Looks like your connection's just not quick enough for the show, but I appreciate you trying, my friend. Just continue to comment in the comments section. Bro Weaver's commenting, the only thing these protesters will respect is a whack with the axe handle on the back of the skull. And I'm not here to disagree or agree with any of those statements. I'm just saying, how do we take people who are angry enough to start burning down cities and bring them back to the table? That is where we're at tonight. Warren, how you doing, my friend? I'm glad to see you in here. 556, we are not free. No, we are no longer free. It is sad that we have allowed ourselves to be compartmentalized and boxed as much as we have. But again, this is part of what we want to talk about for the next 20 minutes or so is how do we turn that back? How do we convince people that more restrictions are not the answer? Let's see here. Daniel, how you doing, Daniel? Oh, I don't have a voice message from Daniel, but Daniel's one of the guys that donated a radio here recently. Rudy's saying respect. Yeah, like I get it, man. You know, like there are so many things I disagree with on a personal level, but on a public level or on a level where I deal with people every day, I accept them for what they are. As long as they don't impede on me, I don't impede on them. I don't try to restrict their actions if they don't try to restrict mine. And for a long time, we in America called that live and let live. It seems like those days are behind us now. It's not live and let live. It's conquer and destroy. And it's just, it's a real scary moment in history, is it not? Let's see here. Now on Skype he's saying, great, well, let's hear it, Daniel. If you can call in, give it a shot. Jamaica Dog's commenting you have to remove the enemies of the country before that can happen. And I'm not going to disagree with that. So your opinion is it's time for a revolution. It's time for, liberty to feed the tree of liberty with blood, I guess is what they like to say. I can't say that I'm ready for that by any means. I don't want to see that in this country. I don't want to see war in this country. I don't want to see bloodshed in this country. I want to see peace. I want to see reconciliation. And I'm hoping somehow, some way that we're able to find that here and soon, because things are really starting to shift. I mean, we've slowly, for I'd say the last 30 or 40 years even, probably dating back to the Carter era, that at least in my memories, and maybe it goes back farther than that, but the social divide, the divide from the left and the right, from the socialists and the patriots, from the, I mean, you pick the fight, from one religion to another, from one color to another. Our divide seems to be getting worse, or at least our tolerance of each other seems to be getting worse. And the sum of this, actually all of this, no, not all, but a lot of this, I blame on the media, which pits us at each other in order to keep us glued to our television sets. But there's more to it than that. This evil that permeates our souls, there's far more to it. We can't blame this entirely on just one little country, on one little company. Patrick's saying all about the D's. After that, you won't want to wear a mask. Yeah, possibly. I'm going to read some of these here. A couple of y'all have been posting. Jolt's saying he thinks the only way to bring them to the table is to bow to their demands. Otherwise, they will continue to dismantle our country. They want it only their way. Well, that's the problem. We have to stop that. We don't have to bow. That is not what compromise is about. It's about acceptance. Tolerance and empathy is saying, look, man, I don't know what it's like to live where you live, and I don't know what it's like to be who you are. Okay. But I don't hate you for it, and I just ask that you don't hate me back, There's a huge disconnect between people who live in the suburbs and people who live in rural areas and people who live in cities. It just in that small an area, we're not talking state to state, but just in each individual town, there's such a disconnect between people now. It's insane. It's just so sane. William Hewitt saying there's no peaceful resolution. Peace isn't even an option according to them. Okay. How do we make them realize that peace is the only option? 741's chiming in. People have lost the ability to think critically on their own. We need to get people to stop being triggered by everything. I agree with that 100%. It's probably the best comment so far, my friend. It's true. We can't, and I've seen it in action. I've had conversations where I've just tried to play even the slightest of devil's advocate. Because in a lot of these subjects, I'm not a far right or a far left. I'm very down the middle in a lot of this stuff. And so I'm able to see it from both sides. But that critical thinking, that ability to look at both sides and decide for myself without listening to one side or the other and being swayed drastically by it, is getting rarer and rarer. And I don't know what to do to bring it back. I think it's all of our responsibilities to try, but I don't know the solution. And that's what we're here tonight to discuss, at least for the next 15, 20 minutes. And then we'll move on to better stuff. But that is it. That's where we're at, man. Bro Weaver's commenting they stopped when the troops came in. Yes, and I want to fault DJT. He should have had the military out in force. The fact that we're even pretending that we're going to defund the police as if that can lead to something good is comical at best. And yet there is an element of our society who is hell-bent on that, and that is all that they will take as an answer. And again, how do we negotiate with people like that? How do we talk to people like that and convince them that it's in all of our best interests to just find a solution that's more peaceful, that's better, that works, that's not so radical, so far to one side or the other, so strange, It's insane what's going on in this country, and as part of what I do, I have to see it far too often. It's crazy. Roger Atkins, Eric, do you really believe we can peaceably resolve this? I do. I want to. I'm a religious man, and I believe that there has to be a peaceful solution to this. I have served, and I've served overseas, and I've seen what happens when peace doesn't work, and I don't want to see it here on American soil. And I know that a lot of my listeners, a lot of the people that follow me on Farpoint Farms, and a lot of people that follow me here are former military. A lot of them are former or current military. A lot of them are former and current law enforcement. And I call out to them because honestly, if this goes sideways, it'll be those people that are the ones that lead what happens next. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of the people that sit down and make peace. I want to be the people that somehow, some way get it through the heads of our supposed, the people we call our enemies at this point, our own citizens we call enemies. It is so clear now that we're so at each other's throats that it becomes almost impossible to sit down at the table. But how do we do it? We have to do it. Bro Weaver, I'm not going to read that one out loud, but that's I don't want to be subjugated. I don't want to submit. That's not what this is about. That's not what we need to do, because that's a side losing, and there's no way that's going to happen without bloodshed. It's not happening, and I don't want to see that happen. Wow, I've missed a lot of comments. I'm glad to see that this is a popular conversation. I'm glad to see that we're keeping it somewhat straight. Jamaica Dog, this is coming from an unseen realm, but most cannot see it. The rulers of the realm are causing this, and they aren't going to stop. Jamaica Dog, I do believe that what we are witnessing is an evil that lives on this planet, a demon, a fallen angel, whatever you want to call it. If you're religious, you can go with the devil. If you're not religious, you can just call it a world karma that has turned. But there is an unseen force or unseen people who are pulling the strings to make us hate each other more and more every day. I don't know to what end, but as long as we are at each other's throats, they hope that we'll never find them and be at theirs. So I agree with you 100% on that, my friend. Bro Weaver's commenting that social media is the root cause. No way these riots would have happened if people didn't read about it on Facebook. I don't know, man. There was an awful lot of gatherings and riots in the 60s, and they certainly did not have anything even close to what we have now. Kent State, for instance, but there was just a lot of those type of gatherings. So I can't say for certain. I wasn't there during a moment like this in any other part in time, but it's very interesting. Daniel, good to see you back in here. Good, you can be sure there is a wealthy person behind a lot of what's going on in America. Yes. Another theory that I have heard recently is that this all started right after China lost the trade war or had an unfavorable trade war settlement, and that this is their way of making sure that that trade agreement never gets enacted by trying to change the outcome of an election. True Russian interference, or in this case Chinese interference, which, if we were being honest from the start, it's always been Chinese interference. They own half of the media in the country, and they influence all the colleges. They are truly the interference that we are told comes from Russia. Jack Taylor, education is a solution. Fan the flames of liberty in your family and in your community. Jack, an excellent comment, my friend. Thank you for the positive solutions. Education is the key. We have to teach people to be tolerant. We have to teach people that, yes, there are going to be people who are totally different than you, that believe totally different things, and that's okay. Jack, I believe you are correct. It starts in the schools. It starts in your family. It starts at church. It starts wherever you find the community at large. Jamaica Dog's commenting, rioters come to rural areas. It's not going to end well. Agreed 100%. I think they've tried that in a few locations, and it has not ended well. I don't think they're really interested in burning down communities. I think this is just a 3-year-old throwing a tantrum, but it's an awfully big tantrum. Kelsey is saying, I'm pretty sure the U.S. has a kill switch on the internet just like any other country does, and I wonder what would happen if a hostile actor got control of that switch. I'm going to go back to what they're saying, and I don't 100% agree with the statement that social media is the cause of all this, but I'm not so sure that the internet has been a positive influence on the lives of any humans. other than, we have found through the internet the ability to connect with one another, the ability to transfer vast amounts of data. Think of all the things you can fix now, or look up how to repair, or how to just accomplish, make a spam sandwich, that we couldn't do before. That you had to go to the library, grab a book, and that book might be 20 years out of date, or maybe not a book on that subject at all because it was somewhat obscure. And that internet saves us for that. It gives us that. But it certainly has been coverted. I don't know, that's not the right word for it. It certainly has been taken over in parts by the worst elements of society. There's no doubt about that. I'm disgusted by some of what's on the internet. I'm certainly disgusted by the hate on the internet. And I do believe it breeds that evil. It breeds it online so that when we come out in public, we now are getting... It used to be you had those keyboard warriors. You remember those guys and gals? They go on a forum and they talk smack all the time and insult people. But in real world, of course, they would never be brave enough to talk smack to somebody because they know they'd get hit hard and they'd go down hard. But those days are now starting to kind of fade away. People who are keyboard warriors genuinely believe they're the tough guy that they believe they are online, and they're willing to come out and push people's buttons. And normal individuals don't want to fight in the middle of a street, so we're taken aback by these crazy folks, no doubt about it. Minnesota Prepper DIY saying, yeah, we're all being played. I agree with that. There is something large going on behind the scenes, but I just don't know what it is. Folks, if you take a second to hit the old thumbs up button, the like button, I would appreciate that. It looks like we got 35 folks in here and only 15 likes. I know this is kind of controversial, so I expect there to be quite a few thumbs down on this video, which is unfortunate because that just shows there are those that can't even stand to listen to the other side of the story, or any other side other than their own. But I hope that some will listen and maybe this will sink in a little bit. It's up to us to change the world we live in. That's what Gandhi said. We must be the change we hope to see in this society. Glenn Francis, society is declining and splitting. They want different end goals. One group wants to work through it. The other group maybe wants a socialistic society. Definitely possible, Glenn. Definitely part of the problem. Revolution is rarely peaceful. If it is a revolution that we are seeing the beginning of, then you are correct. We will not have peace, and that is a horrible thing to think about. But it's all that much more reason that perhaps we must work harder to come to the table with people and try to work things out. Holy cow, I have missed so many. Mountain Man, the ability to truly debate. Without a true ability to debate, we are lost. Solution, at least in part, is an honest debate without censorship. At that point, truth wins out. No doubt, right? So censorship removes the ability for debate to occur. As you're not going to allow one side to even play their story, to just tell their story, to say, here's what I believe, here's what I think, here's how I live. If we're going to censor half the story, then you're right, no true debate can happen. And the evil that exists in this world now is largely in part of that censorship. The truth can't win because of that censorship. So what they choose to censor in a way that they're going to protect us all actually is ending up hurting us. Calcius is saying this is a spiritual battle, that these people are demonic and they are acting to destroy all that is good. Calcius, I put forth this proposition. These people are not demonic, but they are possessed. They are driven by demonic forces. I don't believe these people are truly evil. I know some of these people who truly believe in what they believe. But they are no more evil than you or I. They just are misled, and it is easy to be misled by evil. Jolt 2017, I'm afraid that a peaceful solution is fading away as each day goes by. We will all know in November when the next POTUS is announced. I wonder. I'm not convinced we're going to have elections this fall. Minnesota Prepper, divide and conquer? Most certainly. If you want to keep your enemies from finding you, from being able to overcome you, you keep them at each other's throats. Divide them, put them against each other, and conquer them. Mower Junkie, you are missing one heck of a conversation. It's pretty deep tonight. It's pretty deep. It's like knee deep in the poo. But I hope you're having a good time, my friend. I hope all is well with you, my friend. Packy W, all the you-know-whats who want to defund the police will be calling them when they are in trouble. No doubt. It's a thought that fills their mind, and it like, it's just incredible to see how they react and how they truly believe that somehow we'll just get rid of all the laws and law enforcement. Actually, they're not even talking about getting rid of laws. They just want to get rid of law enforcement, and that somehow peace will prevail. And just in these just few weeks that we've been together, you would think that the painfully obvious results of what really happens in this society when we get rid of law enforcement or even delay their arrival by a few minutes, that they would be like, you know what, time to rethink. But again, we are seeing people who are so stuck on their own ideals that they can't possibly come and negotiate. They can't possibly rethink their position. They don't want to hear any thoughts but their own. It is so dangerous, my friends, so dangerous. I wish a certain three-letter organization that deploys some guys that don't exist with a vengeance disperse some of those. Dallas is saying he thinks that violence is definitely going to be the cure for this, unfortunately. Wes Raz, hello, my friend. Look up Yuri Bezmenov, a subversion of America. U.S. is losing the war. Yeah, and I know from reading about historical events that is one of the ways the Soviets thought they would take us over from the inside out. They would get into positions of power in education systems and cause issues. So, very interesting idea. So many messages coming through. I'm going to kind of figure past a few of these. Uncle Ted called them over-socialized. Interesting. I never heard that. Tools for the system. Yeah, they are tools for the system. Kelsey is saying, don't worry about Skype. It's okay. We're almost done with the live segment anyway. I'm not going to run this very long tonight. I do have a second segment to listen to that'll be a lot more lighthearted than this. So I hope too many of you haven't just hung up and said, that's it, I quit. This guy's crazy or whatever. This is important. This is important for us to think about as a society. I don't want to discuss who's right and who's wrong because I don't know. I have my own opinions and I'm very proud of them, but I'm not so proud of them that I'm not willing to consider alternatives. And I hope as we go through the rest of our lives that you spend every day thinking that perhaps you should stand your ground, but stand it in a way that others can stand theirs. That's all I'm saying tonight about this subject. We're going to move on to another pre-recorded segment, and that's going to wrap it up. It's going to be just an hour-long show. If anyone has anything, I was hoping maybe there'd be a call, but it's okay. Stuff's not coming through all that well tonight, and it could be because I'm now hosting other programs with our internet connections. So, I guess that's going to do it. Guys, I'm going to go back to part 2 of the season. We're going to talk about some fun stuff here, and then this will be the new format of the show, a little bit of live, a little bit of pre-recorded, and a lot of fun. I hope, other than this week's episode, which kind of deals with the evil that we're seeing in society, that I hope you all will take a moment and really think about it. What you're seeing on TV, what these people are feeling, those feelings are real. We need to work with them. We need to figure out a way to solve the solution. And I do not mean surrender. I do not mean give up some position that you hold dear. I mean we have to work to make them understand that their way is acceptable and our way is acceptable and every other way is acceptable. I guess that's the point of this show tonight. Moving on, my friends. We do finally have a call, so I'll take it. How you doing? How you doing, Super B? Can you hear me tonight?
Hey, what's going on, Eric?
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Man, it's going. I kind of walked in late. You're fixing to wrap it up. I'm like, let me call in real quick.
Yes, I appreciate it. I've got another 20 minutes or 13 minutes to show after I sign off live, but I'm glad you called in. This is such a hot topic. I'm like literally shaking just thinking about how much trouble I could get in this world with the cancel culture that we experience. And all I'm trying to do is talk about people coming and meeting common ground, but it seems like people don't want common ground, at least a certain segment. Is that your take as well?
It is. And I'm still, God, I'm still so fired up about that shooting in Atlanta, 3 weeks ago now, and the whole aftermath. Having been a police officer and knowing, the requirements, how bad it's got to be before you draw a weapon and fire, and that was a good shoot. And the DA charges officers, so then, half the police force walked off the job that night, and I agree with him.
I totally agree with that, and here's the problem, and I have some law enforcement experience as well. You're right. It was a good shoot. Somebody took a deadly weapon from a police officer and fired it at them. And I mean, that's a pretty cut and dry case. But we don't run on a world where everyone understands all the laws. So we have these people uh, who just read into this. They saw what they wanted to see. And again, it's like if it fits your frame of mind, if it fits what you already believe, you mold that in so it fits your narrative. No one can look at something objectively anymore. No one can see, hey, we had two guys in a fight with this guy, and both of them pretty much got it handed to them, at least temporarily. And, that. I guess they'll never know the stress of what that feels like. So that all they see is, hey, they just bothered a guy who was sleeping. So it's terrible that is the world we're living in, where somebody can't see objectively. They only see everything from the clouded view of their frame of mind. Now that DA down there, that's a guy just trying to make a name for himself. He has no morals. He has no stand. He's just there to be a part of the problem, to be honest with you.
Well, and it's, I mean, he's under investigation from the state police down there anyway. And when the whole, when all those officers walked off the job, there was a lot of misinformation put out from the Atlanta PD and the mayor's office and what have you. And I have friends who are police officers down there, and they're like, no, we walked off. They're like, half of the department walked off the job, and the mayor's office was asking help surrounding agencies. Basically, they all told them to piss off. And, you make this bad, it's your problem. Kudos to those departments that did that.
Yeah, well, it forces the reality on all of us very quickly. Law enforcement is 100% necessary component of a civilized society. And the moment that it is removed from the equation, you are opening up our society for a quick and violent collapse. You still there, my friend? Looks like we've lost Super B, but that's all right, my friends. Jordan B, good to see you in here. Any last questions before we move on for the night, folks?
I'm still here.
Oh, good. I lost you for a second there. So how do you think, Super B, how do you think, without violence and without giving up on the things that we hold so dear in our own lives, how do we come back to the table? How do we go back to a time, say in the 70s, where there were racists and sexists and homophobic people who roamed the streets without fear or prosecution, and somehow we all managed to survive? How do we get back? And I'm not saying I want to go back to that, because those people were looked down upon and they were persecuted. And I'm not advocating for racism or sexism or homophobic tendencies. I think we should all be accepting each other. But how do we get to a point where we can have these conversations without going right for the throat?
I don't know. I don't know how we come back to that. God, that's a tough nut to crack. There's so much intolerance from the right on the left and the left on the right, and the libertarians in the middle are just like, both of you just shut up. So I don't know how we get back to that. The internet has partially destroyed it because everybody has the platform.
Yeah. Yep. I find people who believe what I believe and only what I believe, and I hang out with those people, and I just feed on my own thoughts without ever taking into account any other point of view. I would agree with that.
Yeah, everybody's in their own echo chamber. Nobody wants to look at it objectively, and it comes back to you've got the whole breed of people, military veterans, law enforcement, what have you, that we've seen all of society and all of the world in some case at their worst, and can look at things somewhat objectively.
Indeed.
In their own echo chamber.
It is. I agree. Joltz Cole is saying it was a different era with different states of mind. You can't live backwards, the past of the past. I agree with that, my friend. You're correct. I guess I'm just opining for the past and hoping there's some way to a new future without the overt racism and sexism and such, but where people still can have civil conversations. So It's an amazing topic. I'm going to leave the topic at that. Super B, thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate that. We're going to go to the last 15 minutes or so of the show. For everyone, please, and I want you to be honest, you can go ahead and shoot me emails on Farpoint if you don't want to leave comments here. This new format is something different, a mixture of live and pre-recorded. It makes it a little easier to do research and go into storytelling. And so for the second half of this, or the second or third half of this, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Third quarter of this, that doesn't make sense either. Third of this, how about that? There we go. Yeah, it's been a long day. We're going to do some traditional Midnight Cafe stuff. I've got a couple of cool stories about the paranormal, about aliens, and about alternate universes. So stay tuned for that. We're going to go to one last song here, and then we'll wrap it up. Again, Super B, thank you so much. I'll let you go, my friend. You have a great night. Bye-bye. For one heck of a conversation here on the Midnight Cafe. A little bit, how do I put this? A little bit more than I normally like to talk about on the show. I don't like anything really that has to do with politics, but I understand that it's part of what we do here on the station. Anyway, let's move from that to something a little more interesting, a little more fun. Computer scientists now claiming that ghosts may in fact be proof that our universe is simply a simulation. That's right, Finding Cracks is the name of the article. The simulation theory, the hypothesis that we are avatars in a simulated universe, it has a new advocate. Science. Yeah, go figure that one out, right? Speaking at a film festival, University of North Carolina at Wilmington, computer scientist Curry Gwynn said that our world isn't real, or at least it might not be. According to WRAL's TechWire, although Gwynn admitted that it was a fairly speculative idea, he went on to argue the reports of ghosts, deja vu, and weird coincidences could actually be glitches, evidence somehow that we are trapped in some sort of futuristic society's video game, or at the very least a science experiment. He claims it's all part of a time loop. Gwynn pointed out Elon Musk's belief in simulation theory tended to lead to more authority to the idea. He also suggested that we could build our own simulations in the future. TechWire reports he also suspects that video game developers will lead the way to this simulated reality that we may in fact already be living in. This is an inevitable, that we will create realities indistinguishable from this reality, he went on to tell the crowd. But like all good video games, occasionally there's bugs. To figure out whether or not we're in a simulation, he suggested we look for these bugs. Glitches in the system, deja vu, such as in the Matrix movie when a character sees a cat crossing a doorway repeatedly, may be one glitch, Gwynn said. Ghosts, ESP, coincidences, they may be others. The laws of physics in our universe seem particularly designed with a set of constraints that make carbon-based life possible. What are the edges? Where are the edges? Just think about the incredible Mandela effect, which we've talked about here on the site several times, on this channel, many times in fact, over the years. The Mandela effect, the memory that you're sure that something happened differently than the way that the rest of the world, or at least a portion of the world, now believes. That is the glitch we may be looking for. An interesting story from here at the Midnight Cafe, and one that I hope you'll read a little deeper into. There are a lot of important people who are now coming forth saying it is entirely possible that the life you and I live here on Earth isn't really here on Earth at all, and it isn't really our life. I look forward to seeing the other side to find out that truth, but I'm in no hurry to get there. We'll go back to the music for a few minutes and then come back with another pretty cool story right here on the Midnight Cafe. This next story, a true tale of the paranormal for a modern era. The story starts with an engineer who lost his daughter in a tragic accident. A grief-stricken electrical engineer believes he has now found a way to communicate with that daughter after 8 years of her passing. Using his expertise to design and build a series of electromagnetic detection devices, Gary Galka claims to have even recorded his eldest daughter Melissa saying, "Daddy, I love you." Devastated by the girl's death in a car accident on her way home back in 2004 at the ripe age of 20, Gary and his family claim they started to experience unexplained phenomenon at their Connecticut home days after the fatal accident. There were situations when my wife would start to make lunch with Heather and Jennifer, and all of a sudden they'd feel someone come into the room, Gary told the reporter. I've been laying in bed and felt someone come lay down at the side of my bed and felt like there was a weight on my chest, like someone's head, he went on to say. It evolved into things like a tap on the shoulder or someone calling out our names, and it felt like someone was kissing our foreheads. Convinced that these were after-death communications, Gary set out about creating a specific device so that he could talk with his deceased daughter. Using his knowledge of electromagnetic sensoring systems, Gary created the Melmeter 8704, named after his daughter, the year she was born, and the year that Gary believes she passed into the spirit realm. Developing additional devices such as a spirit box, Gary has recorded his daughter saying, "Daddy, I love you." The Galka family insists that these experiences are real. The electrical genius Gary has created prove it. The entire family said they have come into contact with Melissa, even saying they have seen her appear inside their home. However, Gary says he has not seen his daughter, so that's kind of unfortunate. But at least he got to hear her say it, right? Gary now sells this equipment on an online store to paranormal ghost hunters. He feels it's his duty to help others get into contact with deceased loved ones. Well, that sounds like a very interesting story, doesn't it? I'm not sure if I believe it. Anytime there's money involved, you have to wonder if somebody is being completely honest. But an interesting story on the paranormal side of things. We'll go back to another song. This one's kind of a bopper song. I like this stuff. This is Greaser, man. This last story tonight takes us all the way from the ghostly to the outer space. Maybe you've never seen any space aliens, but recent polls indicate that up to 6% of Americans claim to have been abducted by them. This experience does not sound pleasant. The extraterrestrials are often said to take their captives to their saucers, lay them out on a table, and extract sperm from the men and impregnate the women. If you're familiar with UFO lore, you know that there are a couple of common explanations for these breeding experiments. One is that aliens are in a reproductive bind on their homeworld. They can no longer successfully procreate, and so they have come to Earth to use humans as incubators to spawn alien offspring. The other is that aliens are producing hybrid beings that will someday, somehow, help them take over our planet. Scientists, of course, are dubious to such claims. After all, there's never been any good evidence that the abductions are actually taking place. No one ever seems to bring along a cell phone to take photos or to pocket an artifact from the saucers they claim to have visited. But an instructor at the University of Oxford in England believes the abductions are real. Young Hae Chi, who teaches Korean at the university, also claims to know what the aliens have in mind. In lectures he's given at the university, he says they are in fact creating alien-human hybrids as a hedge against climate change. To support this unorthodox theory, Che notes that for several decades the number of alien abductions has risen. He bases this statement on the work of David Jacobs, a retired Temple University historian who has published several books on UFOlogy and runs the International Center for Abduction Research. Jacobs has interviewed more than 1,000 people who claim to have been abducted, using hypnotic regression that apparently allows them to recall their unearthly encounters with these aliens. Jacob reminds himself that people should be skeptical of these recollections, even though they appear to come from valid sources. Chi, however, takes that claim at face value and links the growing number of abductee cases cataloged by Jacobs to the increase in atmospheric greenhouse gases. It doesn't imply a cause and effect, however. The abduction experiment is not responsible for global warming. Rather, it's some sort of reaction to it. The extraterrestrials are producing hybrids that can better withstand the rigors of a toastier planet. By producing a new model of Homo sapiens, this project would eliminate the need for difficult climate accords or elaborate geoengineering projects. It would also help the aliens themselves, who are said to be living among us, by preserving the part of their DNA that carries the tolerant, temperate hybrids. Of course, human-alien hybrids, no matter how well adapted to a warmer world, don't address the crux of the climate change problem. Even unimproved humans can handle hotter temperatures. After all, they've already lived on a plethora of steamy environments, including the Congo, the Amazon, and downtown Tuscan in the middle of summer. Rising sea levels, however, could be dealt with as well by building dikes along seaboards and writing off Miami Beach. But other inhabitants of the planet that are problematic are crops, and the critters that will either migrate towards the poles or disappear altogether. These, after all, are essential both to our environment and our food supply. Does the Oxford instructor presume that these other earthly residents are not also being re-engineered by aliens? In addition, Chi's argument rests on the fact that there are two things that have to simultaneously increase in the last past decades: the number of reported abductions and the concentration of atmospheric carbon dioxide. Of course, many other things have risen during this time as well, including the price of bacon and the number of TV channels. It's a big jump from coincidence to timing in an alien project to produce a climate-resistant species. Evidently, this weird theory will be vindicated or vanquished by observation. Chi says the reason we don't see the aliens is that they have become largely unrecognizable. The first-generation hybrids still have physical features distinctive to these aliens, he told NBC News. But the second generation, and certainly by the third, they've almost become indistinguishable in body features from that of humans, although they may still carry at least 1/4 of the alien genes. The inability to discern anything odd about the appearance of these hybrids is both convenient and also a bit unconvincing. They live among us, but we don't notice. In the meanwhile, the concentration of atmospheric carbon dioxide continues to climb, and it seems unlikely that humanity will ultimately find a solution less threatening thanks to this alien redesign. But still, you might want to check your 23andMe results. Maybe you are a hybrid. That, my friends, is going to wrap it up for this evening. I am Eric, the owner of the Midnight Cafe. I hope you've enjoyed this very interesting episode of the Midnight Cafe. More like this will be coming. My personal opinion is aliens are here. They do walk among us. And of course, we don't recognize them for what they are, but yes, they are here to control and manipulate society. Perhaps it goes back to the root of all evil. I guess that's a topic for another night. I'm Eric, the owner of the Midnight Cafe. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you next week. Take care.